Welcome to Let's Talk Cancer Real Life Conversations. Please discuss with your care team before following suggestions from this podcast. 1 out of every 8 women is diagnosed with breast cancer at some time during her life. Beyond life-saving cancer treatment, we need resources, support, and community to help us through the process. I'm proud to invite you to listen in on some of the most intimate, candid, and authentic conversations about the impact of breast cancer on our lives and how to navigate those challenges from women who have walked the walk. We're going to cover some sensitive topics which may not be touched upon in the doctor's office. My guests are nothing short of amazing. 3 beautiful, dynamic, amazing women, each with their own unique stories and backgrounds, with one common thread: triple-negative breast cancer. Black women are 41% more likely to die from breast cancer than any other group. 1 in 5 Black women with breast cancer is diagnosed with TNBC. We'll be speaking with 3 incredible Black TNBC thrivers throughout the course of this podcast series, and I'm truly honored to introduce you to each of them. Deltra, a single mom of 5 girls. She was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer when she was just 33. Latoya is happily married, a mother to 3 little girls. She was diagnosed with stage 3C TNBC at the age of 36. Latoya received adjuvant chemotherapy, followed by a bilateral mastectomy, removal of 26 lymph nodes, followed by 25 rounds of radiation. Ricky is engaged to be married, has 2 beautiful daughters, was diagnosed with stage 3A TNBC, had a double mastectomy, 6 rounds of chemotherapy, and 6 weeks of radiation. She's now a 12-year TNBC survivor and founder of a nonprofit Black Breast Cancer Alliance. I'm the host of Let's Talk Cancer Real Life Conversations, founder of Cancer Fashionista, and the host of my own podcast, Dear Cancer, I'm Beautiful. I'm a single mom, have 2 young adult daughters, and was diagnosed 10 years ago with stage 1 triple-negative breast cancer. We hope you find our conversations helpful during your breast cancer experience. If you know someone who has been diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer, please be sure to share this resource with them as well as their caregivers. What an honor to be here in a safe space with such beautiful women. And we all share a common thread, and that is breast cancer, actually triple-negative breast cancer. So Deltra, Latoya, Ricky, thank you so much for joining me here today for this very, very important conversation. Deltra, if you could maybe start by just telling us a little bit about you and your breast cancer diagnosis.
Sure. So in summer of 2019, I was 33 years old and I discovered a lump in my left breast. And that led to kind of a whirlwind of different scans and tests, which led me to a MBC diagnosis within 3 weeks of first hearing the words that I had cancer. And since then, I've really dove into advocacy work on top of being a mama to 5 girls. And I also went through a divorce after my diagnosis.
Deltra, you're amazing. You've been through so much in such a short period of time, and I feel like you're going to be such a source of strength for so many of us that are tuning in, and I can't wait to dive in and ask you some questions. But first, I'd like to also introduce Latoya. Latoya, can you share your breast cancer diagnosis with us, please?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I was diagnosed with stage 3C triple-negative breast cancer at the age of 36 years old in July of 2021 after filling my own lump after a self-breast exam. I had recently stopped breastfeeding, so really thought the breast cyst was due to just breastfeeding and milk cyst. I was actually misdiagnosed as well by the physician as also having a milk cyst. And I had to push and advocate for myself to have the mammogram because I was told I was too young for a mammogram, which that advocacy led to a very advanced triple-negative breast cancer staging and diagnosis, received neoadjuvant chemotherapy, followed by a bilateral mastectomy with 26 lymph nodes, followed by 25 rounds of radiation, and now I'm still in an active clinical trial. I'm doing well. I'm grateful and blessed. and I'm almost done with my cycles of treatment and looking forward to breast reconstruction. On a personal note, I am a mom of three little girls under the age of 7 and a wife to a really great guy, and I practice medicine as a physician assistant serving my community.
Incredible, Latoya. I mean, and just like Deltra, you've been through so much, and so many of us tuning in are just so hungry for information about how are they going to get through this. So I'm just so happy that you're here with us, and so grateful. And we are the ones who are blessed that you're here and that you're thriving. So thank you for sharing your story. And I also want to preface this conversation by saying that whenever I speak to patient thrivers about their stories, we all have to go back to a pretty tender place that could be very triggering and emotional. So I want to thank you all for going there for us and sharing that part of you with us today. Ricky, thank you so much for joining us today for this important conversation. If you can please share your breast cancer story with us.
Thank you for having me here, and I'm so happy to be around all these young women. I feel like I'm the old lady in the crew, but I'm happy to tell my story because old ladies have sex too, right? I was diagnosed with stage 3A triple negative, and I did a double mastectomy. I did 6 rounds of, chemo and 6 weeks of radiation. I was told I was no evidence of disease. And then exactly a year to the day of my diagnosis, I had a PET scan and my doctor found 5 spots on my chest wall. So my doctor said, okay, Ricky, you are now metastatic. You have 2 years to live. We have nothing else for you. Get your affairs in order. And I said, well, I can't really die right now. I have to put my daughter through college. She was a sophomore at the time. I said, me, you, and God, and some drugs or something. We have to work this out. So what have you got for me? She put me in touch with a doctor who was probably one of about 5 doctors at the time that were actually researching triple negative breast cancer. And she put me on some experimental drugs. And I have to say the importance of taking experimental drugs and doing research. And I didn't die, and it's been 11 years. So I'm a very blessed survivor. And I live every day and work for my God job. I know that God left me here to do this work. And so I'm a crazy advocate, fighting like a girl every day about this horrible disease called breast cancer, and especially triple negative breast cancer.
Especially, well, Ricky, we're just so honored to have you here, and the work that you're doing out there. I know that you started your passion for helping others, but you've been doing such incredible work through the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, and we just are so grateful that you're going to be part of this conversation today. We're going to just dive in. If you kind of dial back to when you first found out, and you didn't know what end was up or where to turn. I'm so glad that we're going to create this resource and have answers for women that are being diagnosed as we speak. So let's start with hair loss. I'm going to start with Deltra. What was your hair loss journey like? Did you lose all of your hair from chemo, and how did you deal with it?
So it's funny because I actually did not lose my hair from chemo until not this year, last year when I started the treatment that I'm currently on. But when I was first diagnosed and about to begin my first line of treatment, I had that image in my head of the cancer patient from movies with, no hair. And so I didn't want to go through the whole losing my hair. So I went ahead and decided to shave my head, and I had my brother shave my head for me. And then, and I didn't shave it completely because I didn't want to dive right into being bald. I thought that would be a bit too jarring, for looking at myself in the mirror. So I just shaved it kind of low, and I had my natural curls at the time. So I still loved it. But then as time went on, I started expecting to maybe see a little spot here and there, and then I was going to go ahead and just shave it all off. But that never happened with the chemo I was on. So my hair just started to grow back out, and I was fortunate to have my hair up until last year. I never considered myself someone who is really attached to their hair as much as I saw a special relationship between women and their hair, and especially Black women and our hair. But I had always, even for about a decade, before my diagnosis. I had always loved to play with wigs and change up my look really frequently. So that wasn't something new to me. So I was pretty shocked that I got so emotional about losing my hair um, last year. But I think what made it different um, was just how sort of traumatizing the loss was because of the way that it came out, you know. Um, I was actually taking down my braids, which, if you don't know what taking down your braids means, when you're, removing braids that are extensions or a weave. And so I was taking them out, and I noticed that my hair from my scalp was coming out with it. And I just had a breakdown. I had a meltdown. I had to call my mother, and it was like 11 p.m. And she came over and she just shaved my head for me. Um, so I think just it being kind of traumatic, the way that it came out was what really bothered me. And then I just found I just kind of missed having hair. And something that played into that, I believe, was that I had really just dove into dating. Um, and that kind of, I think meeting new people and not having my hair was a tricky thing for me to navigate, especially when it came to, sexy times.
You're such an open book, and we're so appreciative of that you are so willing to share, these details. It is traumatic and it's different for every woman. And like I always say, breast cancer can be so defeminizing because when you lose your hair and your breasts, I mean, that's what makes us feel girly. Like, even though you might think, well, I'm not really attached to my hair, when it actually happens, or in your case, the way that it happened, could be really, really traumatic. So thank you for sharing that, because we all have different experiences. The one thing you and I have in common is my daughter at the time was only like 5 years old, and you know how little kids go through a phase where they're like, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a teacher. Well, my little Erica was like, I want to be a hairdresser. So I remember it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. My hair was starting to fall out. It was super itchy. And my hairdresser had said, I cut like a little pixie cut to get started. I didn't want to, go to the full bald thing. And I remember it was so itchy, I couldn't take it anymore. And I was about to take the razor in the bathroom to do it. And I heard a little knock, and she's like, Mommy, what are you doing? I said, Erica, do you want to shave Mommy's hair off? She was like, yeah. Got in the bathtub. It ended up being like a really sweet moment, but you just never know how it's going to present itself or how we're going to handle it. Thank you for sharing that. Latoya, what was your experience with your hair loss?
My experience with hair loss it came rapidly. I don't remember many things when, we were going to all of these appointments when I was first diagnosed because it was just so much information. But I do remember, one of the nurses saying, do not shave your head. Everyone's hair doesn't fall out. So, and I didn't want to do that. My hair was, I had just had another baby. This was my third baby. So I've had all these great pregnancy hormones that had my hair, feeling silky and smooth and lustrous. So, I had a pretty good grain of hair and a pretty good length at the time. And after the second treatments, my hair was falling out. At first, I didn't realize it because it was the body hair at first. And I was like, okay, I'm in the shower and my body hair was like falling off in the washcloth while I was showering. And so it didn't even strike me initially, like I didn't connect the two that it would be actually body hair. When I think of chemo related hair baldness, I always just thought about it on your head, not your body, and your eyebrows and your pubic, your pubic areas. It was everywhere. And so initially I wasn't complaining. I'm like, okay, I don't have to wax. Like, this is great. Yeah. I was enjoying that. I'm like, okay, this is great. And then my hair started falling out in different patches. Like, you could literally just, like, just if you're not even having to put a comb in my hair, it's just like literally just if I was putting my hand through my hair, I had hair falling out. I have three little girls, so they always want to play in your hair and whatnot, and they're brushing my hair, so I just had to just shave it off because it was just falling off in patches. I mean, it was like we had a very furry kitten or cat or something around the house because the hair was just falling out.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable when it's itchy, right?
Yeah, yeah. My skin was like flake. My scalp started like flaking and becoming very dry, and it was itchy, and so I had my husband to. My husband's actually a barber as well, but he just cuts hair for like friends and family, and um, that was the one time he did not want to shave a head. When I asked him to do it, he it was very traumatic for him. It was very hard for him, but that was kind of like the first time. That wasn't the first time, but I mean it was a very emotional point for him, and it really affected my children more than anything, and it still does. My little girls, like you said, our breasts and our hair, you really don't think about how much it's a element of your femininity, but it is. And that for them, it was very traumatic. I had to enroll my middle child, who was 4 at the time, in counseling because it really traumatized her. She does not like my hair being gone, and it's starting to grow back now, but it's not as it was. And they don't like when I do not wear a wig. Like they don't like to see my hair in a short form. They only like it when I wear a wig. It's like when I wear a wig, it's like for them, it's like, oh, you look so pretty, and so I have some people like telling me, okay, just wear your hair short, and sometimes I do. And then in most cases, like if we're going out or whatnot, I'm with my kids, I just kind of feel like I want them to feel okay with it. So I'll slap on the wig for their sake, and also for me too, because sometimes I don't feel glamorous as I did once before. Now that my hair is so short and just growing back. So
It's a really hard adjustment, but isn't it funny how kids have a perception of like how they want their mama, like to look, and then when I remember, getting off the bus from summer camp one day, and my mom had long hair, and she decided to cut it short, and I flipped out, because it's like that's your mom. You don't. It could be very jarring. So you do wear a wig. Your children obviously are more. They're happier to see you in a wig. And are you okay wearing a wig still?
yes, I mean, sometimes I don't like it because I just wish, sometimes I could just be able to wear my own hair, you know. But I mean, sometimes I am okay with it. Like if my husband and I are going out, if we rarely get a date night, but if we're able to get a date night, I just feel more glamorous with, a wig on. I just do. I never envisioned myself with short hair. A lot of people can wear it. I just never thought I could wear it because, I have a pretty round head, but and I get compliments on it when it's short, but I find myself like telling other people, well, I know that you think that I look, fine with it, or you think I look pretty with it, but I don't feel that way. So it's all about how I feel about myself. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the way my children perceive me as well without hair.
And for someone that's like thinking about getting, where would you recommend looking for a wig? How do you find one that's really good for you?
So, unfortunately, I mean, I was diagnosed after the COVID pandemic. So, before then, you could go to a beauty supply store and try on a wig. And after COVID, you could no longer do that. And I had no idea that they were stopping wigs. I'm like, how are you supposed to buy a wig if you can't try it on and see how it fits you? So, yeah, so I wasn't able to buy a wig in a store. I was ordering wigs online and just kind of there was one website I found, and you could upload a picture of yourself and kind of try it on that way. And so that's what I did per se, but it's still not as you would want to like trying it on, or maybe finding a stylist who can make a custom wig for you. That's another option.
Absolutely. Wow.
That's really cool. Please do share the website where you can do that. That makes me think of how I shop online for glasses. And it has like a thing where you can upload your photo and see what you'll look like. And it has not failed me yet. But as far as wigs, I always had my go to local beauty suppliers. And you're right, Latoya, like it is really hard after COVID and not being able to try things on and see what it looks like. And then they all have that rule where you can't return wigs. And so it's like, okay, so now I can't try it on and I also can't return it. So I actually started buying a lot of my wigs online for that reason. I also, just wanted, if it's okay to loop back to talking about daughters and their attachment to our hair.
Absolutely.
Especially, I was just thinking how funny it is just how different kids are across the board because my kids, I fully, I think as parents, we get aware that like your kids can be easily embarrassed of you because even when your parent is just really as themselves as they can be or they don't have anything going on health wise, I remember even like being like you would think it was insane how embarrassed I could possibly get if like my mom came to my school or something when I was like middle and high school. It was like, oh no. So I was very aware of that and I just always worried, about making my kids feel embarrassed. I, have little ones and little ones can be so like open. They just say whatever they want to say. And then with high schoolers, it's important to me to be like that house where their friends can hang out and feel comfortable. And I was, really concerned that my high school age daughters would not want that anymore, having their friends here when they have a sick mom or if I'm just like laying around and I'm not wearing a wig. But I think possibly my wearing wigs and changing my hair up so often since forever, even wearing really short styles was not new to my daughters, so they don't have an attachment to me looking a certain way or my hair being a certain way. And I ended up actually asking them how they felt about these things, especially my teens, and just wanting to know, hey, like, are you okay with, because if I'm in my house, like, I really will not wear a wig sometimes, if I'm not going anywhere. And I just outright asked them, if they were comfortable with me just having my bald head when their friends came over. And they're like, of course. Like, if someone said something, that would not be cool. Like, yeah, you look fine and it's fine. And that was really nice to hear. And my littles, they used to like playing in my hair and now they really enjoy playing in my wig, sometimes a little too much.
See, it's so interesting, right? Like different ages, different, personalities. Everyone's going to have a different experience with this in their families, because it's one thing to, we kind of have to deal with your own confidence, but then you guys have introduced a really interesting topic, like the perception of your friends and family and how they are about the hair loss. It affects how we feel about ourselves. So thank you for sharing, all of your insights on that. And one tip that I often forget to mention to folks that I learned when I was diagnosed is that if you check with your insurance company, a lot of them offer coverage. It's usually, they call it one hair prosthetic per household per lifetime. It depends on your coverage, but it is definitely worth an ask because in my case, my insurance carrier covered 90% of a human hair wig that I otherwise definitely could not have afforded. They're thousands of dollars. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, I think I looked into it with my insurance and they didn't cover it. And then I found a website that also, there was a website as well. And I looked at it and they weren't really good quality wigs. But yeah, that's a good point. Some insurance carriers do cover it because we need it. I mean,
Yeah, it should be part of I think doctors should be part of it, should be a prescription. Here's your prescription for your wig. Maybe one day. Thank you both so much. Ricky, what was your experience with hair loss?
So, I never thought I was really attached to my hair. I've had short hair for a really long time. And, but to Deltra's point earlier, the way it comes out is just so disturbing. And I remember, Latoya, as you said, I was in the shower one day and, I was about to step out of the shower and I looked down and I looked like half of my head, half of my hair was on the ground. And I remember like putting my hands on my head thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. And it was just clumps and clumps of hair just coming out in the shower. I guess a lot of it came out at one time. And I said, okay, well, they told me this was going to happen, but I didn't expect it to be this way. And I mean, how would you expect it? So I actually called my hairdresser the next morning, and she actually came to my house, and we had a party. And a couple of my friends came over, and we all hung out in my bathroom, and she shaved my head. And then I went to buy like the wig, and the wigs were so expensive, and nothing looked right because I didn't have a lot of hair on my head. My hair was pretty short, so nothing looked like my hair. So I bought this wig. I took it home. They tried to style or whatever. It was useless. I think I wore it once, and it was like itching my head, and I took it off. And then I said, you know what? My grandmother was a hat lady. And I went in my closet, and I actually have like 4 of her hats, and I put on one of my grandmother's hats. So then everybody I know started buying me hats, and I built this amazing hat collection. So I literally wore the wig once for about 10 minutes. Other than that, I either rocked my bald head or I wore hats, and it was wintertime, so it was cold. So I just had a lot of really cool hats, and I just kind of made a hat statement and a hat wardrobe out of it. And I think now my daughter probably still has a lot of those hats because she's a hat girl. But she saved them and she wears them. But I really just, kind of built up a way to make a fashion statement. And I kind of used it as like, okay, I mean, I wore really cool hats to chemo and I just rocked my hats. But then to LaToya's point, I remember like when my pubic hair, I lost that. I was like, what is going on?
I mean, talk about the things your doctor doesn't warn you about, right?
For real, girl. I was in shock when that happened. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Like, obviously, it's going to make you lose hair. Why wouldn't it happen there?
Exactly. You never thought about your eyebrows and your eyelashes.
Listen, but getting ready for a date night, I mean, without having to do the whole hour shower because I got to shave my legs and stuff, I will say that is one perk.
Yeah, that was one perk.
Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I mean, between all of you, there's so much great information that you've shared and tips about, and just the reality of losing your hair and sort of the unexpected twists and turns that we don't foresee, especially because none of us have lost our hair in this way before, and many of us tuning in have not. So, and for everyone that's listening, we hope that these tips have helped you. Was there anything else that anybody else wanted to add about hair loss for someone that is maybe about to start chemo and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my hair. This is the worst thing ever.
Yeah. And Liz, can I add one more thing too? I just remembered. So one of my other friends is a photographer, and she actually did a photo shoot of me and my bald head and my 2 daughters. And they're some of the most beautiful pictures that we all cherish as a family. And she just came over and we got all dressed up and she did all these crazy poses. And I think you've seen the pose of the 3 of our heads together on the floor in a circle. And she made it fun for us. So, and that helped my daughters deal with it too,
So beautiful. That's such an iconic photo. And that's another thing, like, sometimes, a bald head, it could be really, really beautiful, especially if you adorn yourself with earrings and, you get yourself some new makeup. It could be actually a very like striking, beautiful look that we don't necessarily, it's hard to feel like to know that we can embrace something like losing our hair completely. But thank you all for sharing your thoughts and your own, personal feelings on hair loss, and not just your feelings on it, but how your friends and family reacted to it. I think this has been a really, really powerful conversation. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Cancer Real Life Conversations. We hope you feel empowered and supported as you continue your own cancer experience. Please be sure to stay tuned for new episodes.